Did you ever wonder how fairies would react to a prophecy of an impending storm? Welcome to the enchanting world of the Fae of the Floating Isles. Get ready to embark on a sleep journey through a realm of magic and nature, where the wisdom of fairies guides you and the harmony of the floating isles soothes you. Once upon a timeless breath, in the azure embrace of the endless sky, dwelled a realm of dreams and fantasies, the Floating Isles. This was no ordinary place. It was a magical quilt of floating territories, each intricately woven with enchantment and dotted across the vast sapphire expanse. This labyrinth of isles, bound by the ethereal threads of stardust, was a secret sanctuary for various fairy clans, each possessing its unique traditions, strengths, and allure. These tiny specks of land hung suspended in the heavens, far from mortal reach. They glided on gossamer threads of wind, nestling amidst fluffy white clouds. Their existence, a well-guarded secret, remained elusive to the human world, preserving a realm that hummed with the melodies of magical spells and the rustling wings of its fairy folk. In the pulsating heart of this celestial realm was Eldoria, an island illuminated by the soft golden glow of fireflies. The place was an epitome of tranquility, its very air perfumed with the ancient knowledge that its residents cherished. Living here was Alina, a Firefly Faerie whose beauty reflected not just in her iridescent wings, but her innate wisdom. She sparkled brighter than any of her kind, a living embodiment of serenity and intellect. Alina, despite being a creature of an adventurous realm, held a unique distaste for daring exploits. She was a lover of peace, finding solace in the quiet corners of her modest dwelling, hidden amongst the towering elderwood trees. Her life was a symphony of softly whispered secrets from the ancient texts she held dear and the soothing lullabies of the twinkling stars. Each night, bathed in their inspiring silver light, Alina would indulge in her favorite pastime, reading the mystic tales of yore, her heart content in her tranquil world. One sun-dappled morning, as Alina sifted through her collection of timeless scrolls, her hand brushed against an unfamiliar texture. Drawn by the subtle anomaly, she discovered an ancient parchment nestled within her beloved texts. It was older than any she had seen, its edges weathered and brittle, holding an aroma that spoke of time's touch. Its parchment was stained with the patina of centuries, its texture coarse yet comforting, like the bark of an ancient wisdom tree. The parchment was meticulously inscribed with a maze of cryptic symbols, their curlicues and dashes dancing under her careful gaze. They wove a pattern that, though complex, seemed oddly familiar. Alina's heart skipped a beat as recognition bloomed within her. She traced the delicate lines with her fingers, a reverent touch on the markings of the ancient Faeric script, a language whose echoes had been swallowed by the abyss of time. The parchment bore a symphony of symbols that was once common tongue among the fairies, but had now faded into the whispers of forgotten lore. It held an arcane beauty, pulling Alina into its mysteries with an irresistible allure. Her heart quickened, a soft rhythm against the silence of her dwelling, matching the fluttering wings of the fireflies outside. The more Alina deciphered, the more it became clear. The parchment was not just an artifact of a bygone era, it was an invitation. It beckoned her, and all the fairies of the Floating Isles, to a grand assembly, a conclave of unprecedented scale and importance. A thrill of anticipation coursed through Alina, awakening her quiet life with the promise of an adventure she hadn't sought, but now couldn't ignore. The parchment was a marvel, an intricate tapestry of codes woven with the elegant threads of the ancient Faeric script. Alina, with her profound knowledge and instinctual wisdom, set out to decipher it, each symbol leading her further into a cryptic labyrinth of meaning. With every line she interpreted, the parchment spun a navigational melody, its notes whispering directions to the core of the floating isles. This path led her to a place where the boundaries blurred, where each island's magic ebbed and flowed into the other, merging into a vibrant confluence. This place was the conclave, the beating heart of the realm, a crossroads suspended in the celestial canvas of the sapphire sky. Alina arrived at the conclave, a grand nexus, pulsating with the combined energy of the isles. The air here was a kaleidoscope of elemental magic, each breath filled with the effervescent whispers of wind, water, earth, and fire. It was here that she met the representatives of the different fairy clans, emissaries chosen to represent their lands and their elements. First, there were the sylphs of the winds, their airy bodies shimmering and swirling, carrying with them the freshness of the morning breeze and the melody of rustling leaves. Then came the naiads, guardians of water, their liquid forms shimmering with reflections of their watery homes, the sound of soft waves forever echoing around them. Following them were the gnomes of earth, stout and sturdy, their bodies patterned with the many hues of the soil, their hearts echoing the deep and calming rhythm of the earth. Lastly, the salamanders of fire, fairies whose radiant forms danced with the eternal flames they controlled, their presence as mesmerizing and unpredictable as fire itself. In the midst of this vibrant congregation, Alina, the humble Firefly Faerie of Eldoria, found herself standing shoulder to shoulder with these elemental ambassadors, her life taking a turn towards an adventure she'd never envisioned. Alina, the quiet fairy of Eldoria, found herself as an unlikely delegate, representing her homeland amidst a panorama of elemental powerhouses. Eldoria, the island of the fireflies, had long been a beacon of serenity and knowledge within the floating isles. Its luminescent glow was a symbol of the wisdom it held, casting a guiding light across the realm that others sought to follow. Alina's presence brought a calming balance to the council, her soft radiance a reflection of Eldoria's principles of peace and wisdom. Yet, despite her tranquil nature, Alina was met with a council echoing tension and brewing discord, an atmosphere starkly contrasting her peaceful disposition. The council was at a precipice of disagreement, its members united only by a common worry that had called them together. The cause of their unrest was an ominous prophecy, a dark shadow cast across their luminescent realm. It spoke of a tempest, monstrous and relentless, that threatened to shatter the serene equilibrium of their floating sanctuaries. This impending storm, predicted to unfurl its wrath across the floating isles, would disrupt the delicate balance holding their world aloft. The prophecy had ignited a spark of concern that now threatened to engulf their unity, turning their assembly from a council of cooperation to a precipice of dissent. Amidst this turbulent atmosphere, Alina stood, a symbol of tranquility and wisdom, ready to navigate the storm of uncertainty that had come their way. With the prophecy casting its ominous shadow, the council made a unanimous decision, pushing aside their brewing disagreements. Their mission was clear. They must traverse the diverse floating isles, each a testament to the magical diversity of their realm, in pursuit of an ancient artifact rumored to tame the looming storm. This journey took them across the kaleidoscopic landscapes of the realm, each isle holding its unique charm and populace. They traveled through the windy isles, home to the playful sylphs. The isles danced under the influence of gentle breezes and fierce gales alike, their ethereal landscapes shifting and changing like a playful child's imagination. Next, they journeyed to the water kingdom of the naiads, where the islands floated not on clouds, but on shimmering azure waters. The isles were a collection of flowing streams, glistening lakes and cascading waterfalls, a paradise for the water-dwelling naiads. Their voyage took them to the gnomes' earthen abode, where the islands seemed like chunks of earth that had ripped away from the ground, teeming with lush greenery and a myriad of Earth's gifts. The scent of wet soil and blossoming flowers was a soothing balm on their journey. The final leg of their expedition led them to the fiery realm of the salamanders. The islands here were born of molten rock, a dance of fire and ash under the salamander's control. The air was warm, carrying a faint crackle of fire, a testament to the salamander's fiery dominion. In each of these realms, they sought and found fragments of the ancient artifact, a relic from the bygone era of the first faeries. The council, despite their differences, worked together, collecting pieces of this mystical jigsaw. Each piece they gathered was a ray of hope, a promise to quell the impending storm threatening their beloved floating isles. As their expedition progressed, the council found themselves on Peronia, the flaming crown jewel of the salamander's territory. Amidst the smoldering ash and dancing flames, Alina stumbled upon an epiphany that sent ripples across their mission. While searching for the next piece of the artifact, her hand brushed against an ancient engraving on a volcanic stone, its surface smooth despite the violent birth it must have had. As she traced the etchings, a revelation emerged from the fire-kissed glyphs. The artifact they had been collecting pieces of was not a mere object, a mundane material relic. It was a living legend, a mythical entity woven into the oldest tales of the fairy world. Their true quest was for the Storm Whisperer, a fairy of tremendous power and enigma. This legendary figure was known to command the raw fury of storms, yet the Whisperer's existence had long been confined to the realms of folklore and old fairies' tales. The name evoked images of a figure cloaked in billowing storm clouds, their voice the rustle of rain and rumble of thunder, hands gesturing with the grace of a swirling tornado. This revelation, unearthed amidst the fiery landscapes of Peronia, was a curveball to their mission, an unexpected truth. The tension that had been building amongst the council seemed to recede, replaced by a shared sense of awe and anticipation. Their journey, they realized, was not merely to gather relics, but to find and awaken a legendary fairy, a task monumental yet utterly captivating. The revelation that the artifact was indeed the legendary Storm Whisperer left the council enveloped in a palpable wave of surprise. Doubts began to cast long shadows in their minds, questions circling like a flock of startled birds. Could the stories be true? Could they find the Storm Whisperer? And if they did, could they persuade this mythical figure to help them? Despite the torrent of doubts, the council knew there was no turning back. Their mission was not merely an adventure anymore. It was a necessity, a desperate plea for the survival of their beloved floating isles. They mustered their courage, pushed away their fears, and set their sights on the next destination, the elusive and remote Isle of Nimbus. Nimbus, a desolate island perpetually shrouded in a cloak of heavy clouds and mist, was believed to be the Storm Whisperer's last known sanctuary. It was an island where the sky always murmured with the distant echo of thunder, and the ground shimmered with the aftermath of fresh rain. The dense fog held an eerie beauty, the mysterious ambience matching the legends of its ancient inhabitant. The journey to Nimbus was not an easy one. The fairies battled fierce winds, unyielding fog, and a sense of foreboding that clung to them as they ventured closer to the desolate island. The aura of Nimbus, however, did little to douse their determination. The fairies, bearing the hopes of the floating isles on their shoulders, ventured into the mists, their hearts echoing with the shared aim of finding the legendary Storm Whisperer. Their journey to Nimbus was a labyrinth of trials, a crucible testing their resolve and unity. The path was a whirlwind of raw elements, gusts of wind lashing against them, soil shifting under their feet, torrents of rain pouring from the heavens, and an insistent warmth that seemed to seep from the very air around them. Yet, in the face of adversity, their bond only deepened. They faced each challenge head-on, their elemental strengths combining in a harmonious dance. The swift sylphs charted a course through the turbulent winds, while the resilient gnomes held firm, anchoring the team when the ground turned treacherous. The adaptable naiads controlled the rainfall, their fluid movements calming the frenzied torrents, while the audacious salamanders bent the warmth in the air, keeping the chilly winds at bay. And in their midst was Alina, her soft glow casting a guiding light, her wisdom the compass they relied on. After what felt like an eternity, they finally reached Nimbus. Contrary to its desolate reputation, the island was a beacon of latent energy. It was as if the very air vibrated, humming with a rhythm that pulsed with life. The isle was not dead, as the tales suggested, but was in fact brimming with an ancient, potent energy that seemed to permeate everything around. The ground, slick with rain, held a richness to it, a hint of fertile soil beneath. The wind, while robust, sang with a melody that hinted at the power it had witnessed. Even the mist, though thick, danced with refracted light, painting rainbows in the gray sky. Nimbus was not a relic of a past era. It was a silent guardian, a preserver of history, vibrating with the hum of an ancient power, the power of the legendary Storm Whisperer. Venturing deeper into the foggy embrace of Nimbus, the fairies encountered a sight that left them breathless. There, nestled in the midst of swirling mists and gentle drizzle, was the legendary Storm Whisperer. She was not the mythical figure they had imagined, no towering entity cloaked in billowing storm clouds. Instead, they found a humble fairy, no different from themselves in appearance. Her aura, however, spoke volumes of her true identity. It was a quiet harmony that echoed with the whisper of rain, the rustle of wind, the crackle of fire, and the hum of the earth. The Storm Whisperer, whose real name was Era, was a fairy with a peculiar talent. She held an intimate connection with the elements, understanding their language, their quirks, their desires, and their grievances. It was a symbiotic bond that had given birth to tales of her commanding storms. In truth, she was merely their confidant, their voice when they wished to be heard. With a voice as gentle as a morning breeze, Era revealed a truth that redefined their understanding of the impending storm. It was not an enemy as they had feared, not a monster seeking to ravage their home. Instead, it was a natural phenomenon, an elemental response to balance the potent magic that held their world aloft. In their world where magic was as real as the air they breathed, it needed a counterbalance. The storm was merely a manifestation of this equilibrium, a force of nature seeking to harmonize the ebbs and flows of magic that threaded their floating islands. Their mission, it seemed, had brought them face to face with a revelation, turning their perceived threat into an understanding of nature's profound balance. In the midst of Nimbus, under the guidance of the Storm Whisperer, the Council had found not just an ally, but also an invaluable lesson about their magical realm. The wisdom Era imparted was nothing short of a revelation. All this time, the fairies had been viewing the prophecy through a lens of fear, seeing it as a harbinger of disaster that needed to be thwarted at all costs. They had embarked on their mission to prevent an apparent catastrophe, bracing themselves against the winds of change, seeking a means to halt its impending wrath. However, Era's words reframed their perspective. The prophecy wasn't a doom's warning, as they had presumed. Instead, it was a poetic plea for understanding, a call for acceptance of the imminent transformation. It was an echo of nature's voice, reaching out to the fairies to recognize the cyclical rhythms of their realm. This knowledge cast a new light on their mission. They realized that their floating isles, beautiful and magical as they were also part of a grander design, a complex system that relied on balance to sustain itself. Just as day gave way to night, seasons shifted, and tides ebbed and flowed, their world too had its natural cycles. The storm was not a disaster to be feared, but a necessary change to ensure the stability and harmony of their magical world. Their role was not to suppress it, but to prepare their people and their home for this transition, to help them understand and adapt. Their journey had begun with a mission to prevent a perceived catastrophe. Yet, as they stood there in the heart of Nimbus, they found themselves on a new path, one of acceptance and understanding, a path that would lead them not towards a battle against nature, but towards a harmonious coexistence with it. Under Era's careful guidance, the fairies braced for the arrival of the storm. Their hearts fluttered with anticipation, their shared understanding replacing the dread they had initially felt. When the storm finally arrived, it was a spectacle of nature's raw power and beauty. Lightning forked across the sky, illuminating the floating isles in an ethereal glow. Thunder rumbled, a symphony of power that echoed through the realm. Rain fell in torrents, cascading down in a cleansing, refreshing veil. The winds whirled and danced, reshaping the landscapes in their energetic waltz. Yet, in the heart of this elemental chaos, there was harmony. There was no destruction as they had feared, no annihilation. The storm, although formidable, was not an enemy. It reshaped their world, altering its form, but it did not tear it asunder. With Era's wisdom and their newfound understanding, the fairies stood witness to this magnificent transformation. They watched as their floating isles swayed and shifted, evolving under the storm's influence, yet holding their place in the sky. The storm passed, leaving behind a realm that had been subtly changed, its landscape slightly altered, its magic balanced. The fairies, too, had changed. They had learned to embrace the dynamism of their realm, realizing that it was not meant to be a static sanctuary, but a vibrant, ever-changing world. Just like the magic that thrummed in their veins, that made flowers bloom and stars twinkle, their realm was meant to be dynamic. This change was not a disaster, but a testament to their world's resilience, its ability to adapt and evolve. And as the dawn broke over the reshaped floating isles, the fairies greeted the new day with hope and acceptance, ready to embrace their ever-changing magical home.